Welcome in, guys. James Phillips. It's another edition of the Coach Moore Show. I'm joined by Coach Moore. Coach, big win on Friday night. Team didn't play great. We can talk about that, but still got it 42-0 win over Corner. That's a positive.
Makes it really difficult to not play well and win like that. I mean, I know that sounds weird, but it's hard to get 16-year-olds to come down from that high, so to speak. You know, we've won the last two games 108-0, and so we still got so much improving to do that it makes it hard. You know, when you win that way, and just like we talked about at halftime, you don't feel like you play well. You have 2 turnovers in the first half, and you're up 28-0.
Yeah.
You know, and we're relatively undisciplined. So this is a new thing. I mean, this is a new sort of dynamic to sort of try to manage and monitor with the kids because, again, they're not, you know, they played, I thought, well against Dora, not very well against Corner. Corner had something to do with that. Corner's got a good team, and they're very well coached.
Yeah.
And so, but again, it wasn't to our standard, and that's what we talk about a lot. And I just think that, you know, we didn't practice well Monday of last week especially. We got after their tails on Tuesday and practiced about 2.5 hours, really got after it. But, you know, ultimately we can't continue to, you know, tear them down all the time, you know, and it's just a different dynamic. It's hard to explain really. But we got to play better because, you know, Hayden will come in and run the ball a gazillion times Friday night and try to keep the ball away like they did to us last year and try to limit our possessions. And if we don't play better overall and we turn the ball over, it'll be a long night.
Before we talk about the Corner game, talk about that week leading up to it. And you said, you know, you had the bad practice on Monday.
Yeah.
Do you think it's just a letdown week? Do you think it's we're believing our #1 ranking, all that kind of stuff? Or, you know, what led to that?
I think, you know, I mentioned it last week about coming off 2 very emotional games, you know, prior to that. I think that, you know, if you think that teams, even like Alabama and, you know, the Patriots or whoever, not necessarily comparing us to them, but teams that should win and can be dominant still have off games. And, you know, again, it's cool to say an off game is a 42-0 win. But again, I just think the emotions that went into those first 2 games, playing on the road for the first time, playing, a team that I think is very well coached, that gave us some problems here and there. A team in Corner that plays hard and has a lot of pride, you know, and a team that gave us a run last year that probably coming in that game felt like they could play with us. You know, last year, we mentioned this already, it was 20-7 in last year's game. At one point, Corner was beating us.
Right.
And so, like, that has to give a team confidence. They had a lot of kids that returned from that team. And so, to put it all in perspective, though, the grand scheme of everything, last year, we won by 2 scores at home. We had to reel off 28 unanswered. This year it's 28-0 on the road at halftime, and our defense played lights out for the most part. We've made improvements. Our program has grown through that year, but again, it wasn't to our standard. That was my discontent with it. Is just you know, not playing to where we need to. But I know that we'll bounce back. You know, again, the good news is that we didn't practice well, we didn't play well. That's a good coaching point.
Right.
You know, I could turn that film back on. We made a huge point of that about Monday's practice. We knew. And then we played flat, you know, and didn't play extremely disciplined and had some penalties. We had 6 penalties on offense, had a personal foul on defense, first one of the year. You know, we've been much better than that, and I expect us to bounce back.
Well, you mentioned the growth. And I know you're a confident guy and you believe in yourself, but would you have thought that the program would be to this point, this early in just the second season?
Well, I think Jasper has always, you know, obviously tradition rich, but also had an opportunity to, you know, there were some things out there that I thought could be improved, you know, that were obvious things, as, you know, specifically strength and conditioning. And we were able to do that very quickly.
Right.
Do I think we would start our first 2 region games the second year 108-0? No, probably not. And that's probably unrealistic, you know, as far as that expectation. But, you know, I believe in our coaches. You know, I believe in Jasper as a whole. I mean, that's why we're here. And you know, we saw something, you know, I think obviously, you know, following the direction, you know, God's direction for my life and my family was obviously one thing, but also just believing in the community and believing in what Jasper had to offer, you know, looking at the tradition. I mean, I think that's important. And I knew that they could rebound from, you know, 7 wins the 2 previous years. But again, to think that you were going to win 100-something-0 in 2 games, I think that's unrealistic.
Right. But you want to keep that shutout streak going, right?
That'd be great. Yeah, yeah. And our defense has scored in both games, so our defense has shut them out and scored a touchdown. So the offense really didn't have to scratch, you know.
Right.
So, you know, I thought the biggest positive that we had in the game, you know, we ran the ball well. J.C. Collins played. He had 17 carries for over 170 yards, 3 touchdowns. But I thought defensively, for us to have, the issues with the personal foul, giving up the first down, them getting inside our 20, and I don't know, they had a really, really good kicker. So if they were inside the 30, they were going to knock one through. And the score in the game was 14-0. So it wasn't, we weren't up big at that point. And then for them to get a stop, especially a trick play on third down, and then to block a field goal and us to run it back to the 50 shows sort of the idea that our players are buying into this shutout mentality and playing hard every snap, and they don't want people to score. We've played 8 straight quarters without anybody scoring against us. And that matters, And honestly, if Coleman doesn't have 2 huge plays, we've given up 1 drive this year, 1 methodical drive where Coleman ended up running a reverse for a touchdown at the end. But other than that, we've given up nothing. And that was big. I think we held them to just over 100 yards or right around 100 yards of offense. It wasn't much. A little bit more than Dora had. But again, I thought corner was a little bit better. And I think that, with the mentality that Kyle Butler brings to the table, I mean, he was really, really all over that second group when we sent him in to keep that shutout intact. The same as he was with Dora. And so we're running kids in and trying to get them in the game, especially after we had the pick 6 for 90 yards. We're trying to get guys in the game and play, but he's all over them, and I love that. Coach Saban does that. I actually heard a press conference of his after New Mexico State, and he really drilled his second group because they didn't do a very good job. New Mexico State went down and scored, but the game was like 62-10 or something. And he's ripping everybody, And the deal is, though, is that the expectation doesn't change based on who's in the game. And I think we've seen that with our JV, and we've seen it when our second group goes in on Friday night as well.
And we should mention, too, the JV picked up a 28-8 win over Corner last week.
They did, and that's important, and we'll go to Hueytown tonight and play, and it'll be the best team we play in JV. Hueytown will provide, they'll have players. They're going to have players. Put it in perspective, we have 14 freshmen. They have 31. And so we have to play some sophomores and even a junior or 2 in that group, but to develop them. But Hueytown will be really good, and we'll see what we're all about tonight, which will be big. But the cool thing is that for 2 Fridays in a row, our second group's played at least a little. Dora a lot more than corner, and then they're still playing those JV games. So the development, I mentioned this, of our program has been tremendous. Last year we couldn't push leads out. Dora and corner, we never got a second group guy in, not one time last year, and we're able to do that now, which provides game reps. There's no substitute for game reps.
Now, after halftime, you guys came back out, played a little bit better in the second half, but still were pretty inconsistent offensively.
We try to throw the ball more. Not to run the score up, but to work on our throw game. We know that our quarterbacks have to develop. We're playing 3 guys right now. You saw a freshman throw a touchdown. Avion Berry pulled one and missed a wheel route that Burt would have scored running backwards. He was wide open. And so we're trying to clean that up. Parker, we had 5 dropbacks in the game. We're trying to drop him back because we know at some point he's going to, on 3rd and 7, he got to drop back and complete a ball. And we're not going to be able to run for 250 against everybody. And Hayden may provide that. So we're going to have to be able to throw the ball. So we really tried to work on some things and develop some maturity there. And, if we don't turn the ball over and we pitch and catch the ball like we can, then that game is, I think, a different story. We probably feel differently. It's probably, we fumbled twice going inside the 10. So it's probably 56-0, and it feels a lot more like Dora. But I think that game might have been a good thing for us to be able to tighten it back down a little bit and to humble us a little bit. As you mentioned, where the expectations are, being number 1, does that affect you? I think naturally it does. I think that being 16 years old and being put on the platform that these kids have been put on is tough mentally to deal with, And I think that sometimes it's important to have these struggles to grow. And I hope that our team will do that this week.
You mentioned the touchdown from the freshman quarterback. How cool a catch was that, too?
Great. I saw the slow-mo of that thing, and I didn't realize, first off, he never should have got to that point. He tries to basket catch a ball. He should have gone up and grabbed. If he does that, we never even get to this great catch. But in reality, he didn't do it. And it was funny because Prothro said that. It was the first thing he said. He said, man, what a catch. And he said, well, it shouldn't have even been a contested catch. Anyway, that's his mentality. I love it. And so, but he tries to basket catch it, well, then knocks it in the air. And I didn't notice this. I thought it just fell right on him, but it didn't. It was over here. He snatched it back into his belly, on his back. He grabs it with his left hand and pulls it to him. And it was a clean catch, and that's a dynamic play. We expect that from Burt. And what was cool is the freshman freshman through it. You know, we had a little package where we've run that freshman a lot. Spencer Rosenfeld, he's a special talent. We see it in the JV games every week.
Right.
But, you know, he's going to play more in the varsity games because he's got something about him, and he throws a really good deep ball. He got hit was kind of why the ball was underthrown. And but Burt made an incredible catch.
Yeah, that was fun. Everybody, and at
Crazy.
that point, that was the first score of the game.
It was. I thought it settled us in, you know, because I think it was still in the first quarter, but it was late, and we had a few possessions that kind of sputtered, and our defense gave us really good field position, sudden change. We went for it and got it. Good call by Coach Bailey.
Now, defensive-wise, we've talked about them a good bit, but still, you did have a 90-yard interception return. Last year, you guys did not score on defense,
No,
right?
not once.
And so we've done it 2 straight games now.
Yeah, I think the defense is a lot more active. They're a lot more aggressive. You know, we blitzed a lot more. Part of that has to do with us feeling comfortable in the back end with our DBs. You know, can they cover people down the field? Because you're going to blitz, you're going to put them on some islands. And Aubrey Jones has really stepped in and done a good job at field corner. Of course, Kevon Samuel's done a good job as our boundary corner now, and he picked that ball and took it back 90. That was a big deal for him and the defense. The defense, I think, forced 2 other fumbles, had the interception, blocked the field goal. I mean, they forced 7 turnovers in 3 games.
Right.
You know, last year I'm not sure we forced 7 in the first 10 games.
Yeah.
And so we've been a lot better as far as getting takeaways. And what's really been the difference, and the reason we're scoring 40 plus a game right now, is the field position. You know, last year I felt like we didn't kick the ball off well, so we gave them good field position every time. And then I felt like Mike and company had to go 80 yards, you know, every drive. And we put up a lot of offense, but it's hard to go 80.
Yeah.
You know, but we're getting a lot of 40-yard drives, you know, and even 10-yard drives and touchdowns from our defense that I think has made a difference in our scoring.
Well, in field position, special teams plays a huge role in that, and special teams have played well even in the corner game.
Super.
Grayson punched the ball well, pins them back a few times.
51-yard punt.
Right, yeah.
I mean, he averaged 27 yards a punt last year.
Yeah.
And now his average is right at 40. In high school football, that's tremendous.
Yeah.
Our coverage has been good. Our operational time has been really good. Our protection. Of course, Preston Reed has been exceptional. He's perfect on his PATs. I continue to let him kick. He's only a 10th grader. I continue to let him kick in JV as well, just because it's kind of like a shooter in basketball. The more that thing goes in or through, the better he gets, the more comfortable. And I thought, you know, there were times where I was going to kick a field goal. We were kind of close, but Preston's been really good. Coleman Sapp is a new holder. You know, Tyler Morrow was the holder last year, but for Coleman to come in and be perfect, he's handled some bad snaps. I mean, Harrison was gassed, and so we sent Carson Alvis to snap, so we got a good backup snapper. And then Moises Sanchez has been really good on our kickoffs. You know, we had 2 that we were close to getting again Friday.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue to do that. Even if at times we give them the ball at the 35, we're going to get some just like we did with Dora. We're going to get the ball back sometimes. And so we're going to continue to be aggressive in our kicking game. And our coverage units have been tremendous. We've only been able to return 2 kicks in 2 weeks, you know, because nobody scored.
Right.
So we hadn't been able to work a lot on our kick return team. But our punt return team's been good. Anthony Harris has made a difference, you know, by fielding all the balls. You know, I thought Shelder at times last year let the ball roll, and you lost all this field position. But Anthony just is very smooth and has caught everyone that's been close to him and has made a big difference.
Yeah. All right, let's move ahead to this week. It's homecoming week. You've got Hayden coming in. Hayden's not very strong this year so far, but they gave you guys some fits last year, even though they didn't have a great record coming in. They're going to want to control the ball, like you had said earlier. What do you guys have to do to get the tempo and the momentum where you want it?
Well, the game last year was very slow. I mean, they took the opening kickoff and drove it forever and scored. And we were misaligned. They did a good job, some 4-man surfaces, adding an extra tight end and a wing back, and their big wing T team, and want to run it for 3 yards in a cloud of dust. If you're an old school football fan and you're a 3 yards in a cloud of dust guy, then this is going to be your show right here. Like, they want to methodically move the football and burn the clock. You know, their advantage is to keep the ball away. And they don't make many mistakes, and they just sort of chip it down the field. They'll go for it on 4th down. You know, a lot of teams like Navy and Army and some of those guys that do that stuff, they do that. You know, they'll get it to 4th and 1 and go for it.
Yeah.
Minus 35, they don't care, you know, because they feel like they can make the yard. Hayden's kind of the same way. I've noticed that about Coach Register. They just go for it a lot and do a good job with that. Again, keep away type football. Last year we had some misalignment things. As we went back and looked at the film, we did a horrible job of handling trading tight ends. And then they ended up popping one early, and then they ended up ran what we call the Sally play, which is like a little counter back to the weak side and scored on like 60 or 70 yard run. And that can't happen. We can't give up big plays. They would remind you offensively of what Coleman's trying to do right now.
Right.
You know, but they don't have those backs, you know. But they're still a good football team with a lot of tradition. You know, the coach does a good job as far as staying in his box, you know, and calling the plays that they only run like 10 different plays, not a ton, even in their passing game. But they're going to stay in that box, and when it's 3rd and 12, they might run trap instead of throw the ball. You know, it's just a different mindset of how they want to do it. And we struggled early. We only had 7 possessions total in the ball game last year, and that was a major problem. We scored on like 5 of 7 or something like that, and then ended up kicking a field goal to make it 38-14 or somewhere in that range. But we did not play particularly well over there last year, and I fully expect us to play better, again, against the scheme that we've now seen for a year.
Well, and do you think having a more aggressive blitzing defense, that's going to
You got to create some negative plays. Like it can't be 2nd and 7, 3rd and 3, 1st down. It can't be like that. Like it's got to be 2nd and 11 some, or 2nd and 10. Kind of like we did with Coleman. You know, get stops on early downs, first downs. First downs in games like this make all the difference in the world. You know, when you put them into 2nd and 10 or 11, it changes everything about what you do defensively and what they call.
Yeah.
You know, you put them in a situation where on 2nd down, now 2nd and 11, I might throw it instead of run trap again or fullback dive. And I think that we've got a better plan. The thing that worries you the most in this game is that everybody's committed to the run. And then here they go with a tight end down the middle of the field, or somebody's eyes aren't in the right place. These games give me the most anxiety. I would rather play an empty 10 personnel, you know, 4 wide, 5 wide team than play somebody that packs everybody in. Like you might as well be playing in like 10 yards of field. It doesn't matter. Everybody's in here, all of them, you know, all 11. And you have to be in there too. Well, the things that worry you is them rolling out and throwing one back. And so we got to be really disciplined. These games require the most discipline. If you saw against Coleman, 2 times undisciplined, both went for touchdowns, or long that it ended up resulting in touchdowns. And it was because our eyes are in the wrong place. And I'm eager to see, and I'm going to call on that game a lot, I'm eager to see if we can cap off big plays and ultimately force them into these long down and distance situations.
Right. How about offensively? Anything that they'll cause issues with, or you guys just want to keep the tempo
Well,
up?
they're a lot like Dora in the sense that, you know, they're going to be even front, too high, which is totally different than Coleman and corner. You know, we see so many variations of defense. And they've got a huge inside linebacker. I'm talking like 250.
Yeah.
And he is a banger. He's a good football player. I've noticed a lot of the schools that we play in our region have 1 or 2 just animals. Like West Point has a defensive end that is a freak. Like he is a really good football player, Division I player. And then Hayden does too. This kid inside is really good.
Right.
Like he's heavy, tackles heavy. You know, we want to run the ball inside. He'll be a big run plugger. They do a good job with that. And then schematically, they'll get multiple. As we get closer to the red zone, they'll be playing some zero coverage and trying to play some man and load the box. You know, they're just not going to sit there and let you run the ball down their throat. Eventually, they're going to start getting hats in the box like corner did. Corner, all of them were in there. I mean, I said it before the game, and we knew, but they were all in there, hence why we were able to throw one over their head, you know, at one point. And I actually ran double pass as well for a big completion that Hayden threw. But, you know, you have to be ready for that. You know, again, even front, for us, we like that. You know, we like to play against 4 downs, but we don't see it every day. So it's a new deal. So we have to go in and reteach and learn, and the calls are different, and the blocking schemes now become a little bit different with the front change. But again, it's good now. As you get towards the middle of the season and the end, you've seen a lot. And so like for us, having seen Dora, now we can lean on that film.
Right.
You know, hey, this is your call, and this is what you need to do based on that play. So, but again, that middle linebacker's a problem. I don't know if you remember, Southside Gaston had a big inside linebacker 50 last year that was just all in there and made like 20 tackles in the game.
Yeah.
This kid's a lot like that, so he's a problem. We got to get a hat on him.
Well, and in the trenches, Hayden typically has some big guys
They
that
do.
can
They're
play.
heavy.
And they're usually a really good wrestling skills that helps with their lines. But we're much bigger and stronger than we were last year.
We are, you know, overall. You know, I tell you, the group that I've been most pleased with that coming in this year was probably the biggest question mark outside of our quarterback. Is our tight end and fullback. You know, I'm just really encouraged by Carson and Andre and how they've played and how they've developed, you know, and they have just been, you know, but neither one of them played the position last year. Both of them we knew physically were capable and have really done a tremendous job, and that's part of that, being heavy. You know, now we're able to add a 240, 235-pound tight end, you know, and Andre, a big, long kid that's athletic and had a couple catches to help our offensive line, you know, to add that weight and that size and strength point to that because they're an extension of the offensive line. You know, they're glorified linemen is what they are, and but they've done a really good job along with our offensive line. Now we've got to get a couple kids going. A couple of them got a little tired Friday night. We got to get in a little better shape. I'm shocked that we're still doing that, but we got to continue to improve up front. But we got a chance to be really special.
It's homecoming week. Added distractions there for sure.
Yeah.
But what do you think about homecoming?
Well, I think it's a great thing for our school. You know, it's a time, you know, every school, doesn't matter if you're winning or losing, adds a little life to the program on homecoming week. You know, people that don't normally show, you know, here we try to make a big deal of it as far as our parade downtown. I think that's cool. I think anything with our community is big, especially in a relatively small town like Jasper. I think that's important to, you know, last year I really didn't know what to expect. And then going down through the streets, I mean, it's just crazy how many people come out in the middle of the day on a Friday, you know, or taking the day off or leaving at lunch or whatever. I think that's a really big thing. But for us, you know, we have to be cautious, as every coach says, about the distractions and being able to fight through that and being able to focus on the football game, especially, like you mentioned, after, you know, playing corner, not playing well, then we go straight to homecoming. And, you know, you just hope that the distractions don't, you know, impede your progress and your growth. I mean, because it can. If we don't line up and play and have a good week of practice, then we'll be sloppy again.
Were you shocked by the quality of the floats and things like that?
Unbelievable. Like one of them was like a whole ship.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, this is unbelievable right here, the amount of work. And, you know, that's what's cool about Jasper, though. You know, on Friday nights, we have 800 students, you know, 9 through 12. And on Friday nights, almost half of them are involved in something.
Right.
You know, and that's a big deal. From a 150-person band to almost a 100-man football team to all of our cheerleaders to our ambassadors, student council folks, and all this that are putting these floats on, that's what you want at your high school. You know, I wish all 800 of them could do something if they wanted to. You know, every kid should be afforded the opportunity to do something within our school. And I think that's what makes your school pride so big. So we'll have a pep rally at 9:30 Friday morning. It'll be a big deal, the big toga run and all this kind of stuff that was new to me. I was like, what are they wearing, you know, last year? Why are we wearing togas? And then they're running around. It's just, that's a cool tradition, you know. And all I wanted to do coming here was just embrace those traditions, you know, bring winning football back and just embrace the traditions of the school already. And the homecoming week is a huge part of that, so it'll be a lot of fun.
All right. Well, Coach, anything else before we go?
Well, I just hope we have another big crowd. You know, we've had 2 massive crowds. You know, our crowds this year, as far as gates and everything, were the 2 biggest in the past 2 years. So, like, never last year did we meet a Coleman crowd or Dora crowd like what we had this year. There was never one, even the Russellville Region Championship game. And I fully expect homecoming to be just as big. You know, we don't need to take teams lightly. You know, I heard Coach Saban say that, they always own him about the students leaving early.
Right.
You know, you ever heard him do this? And he gets all over it, and he's like, you know, it adds to the value of our atmosphere when everybody stays. Yeah. Well, same thing. Like, we have a product we're putting on the field. Our kids that work hard, our band members, our cheerleaders, everybody's involved, deserve people to come to the game and stay at the game for 4 quarters.
Right. And
cheer. You know, my wife's all of it. She's like, everybody's got to get up and cheer. I'm like, well, get them going. You know, let's. You know, I agree. Like, we want it to be loud, and I hope that people understand that their presence is felt.
Yeah.
Big crowds are felt by kids. You know, I don't turn around and necessarily look at the crowd a whole lot because I think it's just one of those things, but the kids do.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, they're looking for aunt, mom, grandmama, whoever's responsible, somebody's there to support them. They're looking for them in the crowd, and I'm sure that we'll have another huge one this Friday.
Well, I'm going to be on the field as always, working for the paper and the radio station. So if I see people starting to leave, I'm going to write down their names, and then next week on the show you can call them out. You can do just like
That's great. Yes.
So that way we can keep people in the stands too.
Awesome.
Well, Coach, good luck this week.
Thank you, Jay.
Things are rolling right now. Just keep them pointed in the right direction.
That's right. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to tune in every week for the Coach Moore Show. We'll see you next week, and we'll be talking about a big win over Hayden and looking to a huge game with Central Clay. We'll see you guys then.